Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. I'm Jenna, a typical suburban wife with a steady but unexciting life. My husband, Rick, and I had our fair share of ups and downs. We argued about the usual: money, lack of excitement, the kids. Our life was like any other average American family, just getting by. That Friday, I met my girlfriends for drinks at a local bar. A little fun never hurt, I thought. We laughed, gossiped, and for a moment, I forgot my dull, routine life. I didn't notice the guy who kept eyeing me, nor did I see him slip something into my drink. The night air was warm, and the bar's neon sign flickered, casting a kaleidoscope of colors over my friends' faces. We'd chosen our usual spot, a cozy corner booth, far enough from the music's pulse yet close enough to feel its energy. "Ladies' night out," exclaimed Sarah, her laughter ringing above the hum of conversations and clinking glasses. Her eyes sparkled with a mischievous glee, a stark contrast to her usual corporate demeanor. We ordered our drinks, the same we'd been having for years, cosmopolitans, with just an extra dash of lime. The evening unrolled with each sip. Our talks wandered from mundane daily grinds to wild, half-joking fantasies of running away to exotic lands. "Imagine just leaving everything behind," mused Lisa, swirling the ice in her glass. The idea seemed ludicrous, yet liberating. For a moment, I lost myself in the thought, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. As we talked and laughed, I didn't notice the man sitting at the bar, his gaze fixed on me. He was inconspicuous, yet something about him seemed out of place. Maybe it was the way his eyes narrowed when I laughed or how he periodically sipped his drink, never taking his eyes off me. Sarah nudged me, her eyebrow raised in a silent question, gesturing towards the mysterious onlooker. "Looks like you've got an admirer," she teased, her voice laced with a hint of envy. "Please, I'm happily married," I dismissed her with a wave, but inside, my heart fluttered with an unfamiliar thrill. It had been ages since anyone had looked at me that way, with desire, with curiosity. But as the night deepened, so did our conversations, and I forgot about the stranger. We shared secrets like we were teenagers again, confiding fears, dreams, and the little rebellions hidden within our hearts. It felt freeing, cathartic. The bar blurred around us into a swirl of lights and shadows, our booth a tiny island in a sea of escapism. Then, the drinks kept coming. Sarah, ever the instigator, kept ordering rounds, toasting to our enduring friendship, to escapism, to dreams. The tang of lime mixed with the sweetness of the cranberry became my reality. I should have been more cautious, more aware. But the joy of the moment, the escape from the mundane, clouded my judgment. The world outside our bubble ceased to exist. That was when he made his move. I didn't see him approach or notice him slip the bartender some cash, whispering instructions with a sinister smirk. The bar was loud, filled with the cacophony of a Friday night, the perfect cover for a stealthy, malicious act. I remember laughing at something Lisa said, then taking another sip of my drink. The world started to spin, sounds and colors merging into a disorienting vortex. I felt light, unburdened, yet something within me screamed that this wasn't right. "Jenna, are you okay?" I heard Sarah's voice, distant and concerned. But her words were like echoes in a deep, swirling fog. The last thing I remembered was the stranger's face, now close to mine, his smile not kind but triumphant. His words were a whisper lost in the roar of the bar. "It's been a long time, Jenna." Then, darkness. Waking up, I didn't recognize the room, the bed, or the man lying beside me. Panic surged through me. Memories blurred. What have I done? I raced home, feeling a mix of nausea and fear. Rick was there, clueless, his usual indifferent self, trying to wash away the guilt and the night. The morning light was cruel, an unrelenting glare that pried my eyes open. I groaned, my head pounding in rhythm with my racing heart. Blinking, I tried to focus on the unfamiliar ceiling above me, a stark, sterile white. Where was I? Panic set in as my eyes adjusted to the brightness, revealing a room I didn't recognize. It was meticulously tidy, almost clinical, with stark walls devoid of any personal touch. The air carried a sterile chill, making me shiver. I turned, noticing the man beside me. He lay there, still asleep, his features softened by slumber. But peace was the last thing I felt. My mind screamed, refusing to piece together the fragments of the night before. His face was vaguely familiar, yet a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Scrambling out of bed, my movements were frenzied, my breath short and sharp. My clothes were strewn across the room, a trail of chaos leading from the door to the bed. I dressed hurriedly, my hands trembling, my mind racing with a single thought: escape. Sneaking a glance at the man, a sliver of recognition hit me. He was the stranger from the bar, the one Sarah had pointed out. But how? Why? I couldn't linger on these questions. I needed to leave, to return to my life, to Rick and the kids. The thought of them, waiting at home, oblivious to the storm that had just upended my world, fueled my desperation. As I reached the door, a soft groan echoed from the bed. I froze, heart pounding in my ears. The man stirred but didn't wake. Exhaling a shaky breath, I slipped out of the room and into a hallway. The house was quiet, too quiet. Each step felt like a thunderclap in the silent corridor. Paintings lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow me, witnesses to my shame and confusion. Finally, I reached the front door, my hands fumbling with the lock. The cool morning air hit me as I stepped outside, a temporary relief from the stifling guilt that constricted my chest. I didn't recognize the neighborhood. Upscale, with manicured lawns and sprawling homes that spoke of wealth and privacy. Where was I? How far from home? I pulled out my phone, its battery perilously low, and dialed a cab. The wait felt eternal, each second a sharp jab to my conscience. My mind raced with excuses, lies I could tell Rick. But they all crumbled under the weight of truth. The cab ride was a blur. I stared blankly out the window, the passing scenery a mix of familiar and foreign. Thoughts collided in my mind: fear, confusion, guilt. By the time I reached home, my resolve was a fragile shell, ready to shatter. Rick was there, in the kitchen, his back turned to me as he made breakfast. The normalcy of the scene was a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. "Morning," he said casually, not turning around. "You're back late from the girls' night out." His voice, so ordinary, so unaware, sliced through me. I stood there, at the threshold of our kitchen, a place that had always signified comfort and family. Now, it felt like a stage where a tragic play was about to unfold. Lost track of time," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. He finally turned, his expression changing from casual to concerned as he took in my disheveled appearance. "Jenna, are you okay? You look." I couldn't bear to meet his eyes, those eyes that had looked at me with love, trust, and now concern, maybe doubt. "I'm fine. Just tired. I think I'll take a quick shower," I muttered, escaping his gaze and the mounting questions. The shower did nothing to cleanse the guilt that clung to me like a second skin. As the water cascaded over me, I replayed the night, trying to piece together the fragments. But the memories were elusive, shrouded in a haze. I emerged from the shower, a semblance of normalcy cloaked over my turmoil. But as I dressed, my phone buzzed with a message that chilled me to my core. "We need to talk about last night," the message read, from an unknown number. My heart stopped. The stranger from the bar, the morning's nightmare, it wasn't over. It was just beginning. Days went by in a daze. I couldn't look Rick in the eyes. But then, I began receiving texts. The guy from the bar. He knew who I was, where I lived. He wanted to meet, threatening to tell Rick everything. I felt trapped, scared. The fear of losing my family, my normal life, was overwhelming. My hand shook as I held the phone, the message glaring back at me like an ominous portent. A million thoughts raced through my head: fear, anger, disbelief. Who was this person? What did he want? I had to keep this hidden from Rick. The look of hurt, the betrayal in his eyes, would be unbearable. The idea of confiding in my friends briefly flickered in my mind, but shame and guilt quashed it instantly. Over the next few days, life took on a surreal quality. I performed my daily routines mechanically, my mind constantly returning to the stranger and his message. Rick noticed my distracted demeanor but attributed it to work stress. The unknown number sent another message: "Meet me at the park bench near the willow tree tomorrow at 8 p.m. Alone." The command was blunt, the threat implicit. The park was a public place, I reasoned. Maybe I could confront this stranger, end whatever game he was playing. I didn't dare involve the police or tell Rick without knowing the full extent of what had happened that night. The evening air was brisk as I approached the bench, my heart pounding an erratic beat. The park was serene, families and joggers enjoying the last bit of daylight. But the beauty of the scene did nothing to ease the knot in my stomach. He was already there, sitting calmly, a stark contrast to the turmoil raging inside me. As I approached, he looked up, his gaze sharp and calculating. "Jenna, so good of you to come," he said, his voice smooth, chilling. "What do you want?" My voice was firmer than I felt. He smiled, a predator amused by his praise bravado. "Straight to the point. I like that. Why are you doing this? Who are you? I demanded, trying to mask my fear. He leaned back, his eyes never leaving mine. You really don't remember, do you? After all the memories we shared? Confusion swirled within me. His familiarity was unnerving, his identity still a mystery. Remember what? I have no idea who you are. My frustration was mounting, my voice growing louder. He smirked, reveling in the control he wielded. Oh, Jenna, always playing the innocent. We have a history, you and I. And I've been waiting for the perfect moment to rekindle that connection. His words sent shivers down my spine. A past encounter? An old flame? My mind struggled to place him. Seeing my confusion, he leaned in, his voice a sinister whisper. Let me jog your memory. As brisk as I approached the spring dance, the football captain you so callously rejected? It hit me then. The high school sweetheart, the one who had taken my rejection as a personal affront. But he looked so different now, hardened, cold. Why now? After all these years? I whispered, the realization dawning on me with a mix of fear and incredulity. His expression darkened. Because now, you have something to lose. And I've waited long enough for my revenge. I felt sick, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place with a dreadful clarity. This wasn't just a random encounter, it was a calculated move by a man harboring years of resentment. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice barely audible. His grin widened, malicious and triumphant. I want you to suffer. I want you to feel the pain of losing everything. And I can make that happen, Jenna. Starting with telling your husband about our little reunion. I stepped back, my mind racing. This was a nightmare. How could I protect my family from a ghost of my past, a ghost I didn't even remember until now? You're insane, I said, my voice quivering with anger and fear. He stood up, his presence menacing. Oh, Jenna, this is just the beginning. I'll be in touch. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, frozen in terror. As I walked back home, the night air felt heavier, each step laden with dread. My past had returned to haunt me, and this time, it threatened to destroy everything I cherished. I agreed to meet him, intending to end this. But it was a setup. Rick was there, furious, having followed me. So, it's true, he yelled. The quarrel escalated. Accusations, insults, and truths spilled. The stranger smirked, enjoying the drama he'd sparked. My mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion as I approached the cafe where I'd agreed to meet him. The thought of facing my past, personified in the man who now threatened my present, made my stomach churn. I had planned to confront him, to demand he leave me and my family alone, but deep inside, uncertainty gnawed at me. What if he had evidence of that night? What if he could ruin everything? The cafe was bustling with the midday crowd, the air filled with the aroma of coffee and the hum of conversation, a stark contrast to the turmoil within me. I scanned the room and saw him sitting in the corner, his eyes fixating on me the moment I walked in. Taking a deep breath, I walked over. His smirk grew as I approached. Jenna, you came. I'm touched. This needs to end, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. What do you want? He leaned forward, the look in his eyes cold and calculating. I want to see you squirm. I want you to feel the fear of losing everything. And I want you to beg. I clenched my fist under the table, struggling to keep my composure. Why are you doing this? After all these years? He shrugged. Some wounds never heal, Jenna. You broke my heart, humiliated me. Now, it's your turn to feel that pain. I searched his face for any sign of the boy I once knew, but all I saw was a stranger consumed by bitterness. There's nothing between us. That was high school. People move on. He leaned back, a dark chuckle escaping his lips. Not me, Jenna. I never moved on. And now, neither will you. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Rick. Where are you? We need to talk. Panic surged through me. Had he found out? Was this part of his plan? I stood abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. This isn't over, I warned him before rushing out. Outside, I tried to compose myself, but my thoughts were in chaos. I headed home, my pace quickening with every step. As I approached, I saw Rick's car in the driveway. My heart raced. This was it. The confrontation I dreaded was about to happen. I opened the door, and there he was, sitting at the kitchen table, his face a mask of confusion and anger. Jenna, where have you been? Who were you meeting? I tried to keep my voice calm. It's nothing, just an old friend. An old friend? His voice rose. I followed you, Jenna. I saw you with him. What's going on? The room felt like it was spinning. He knew. There was no point in hiding it any longer. But before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. It's him, isn't it? Rick's voice was a mix of hurt and accusation. I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. Yes, but it's not what you think. He's someone from my past, trying to ruin our lives. Rick stood up, his movements tense. How? Why? I took a deep breath, the weight of my secrets threatening to crush me. He's a part of my past I thought was long gone. We need to talk, but not here. We decided to leave, to find a neutral place where we could unravel the tangled web of lies, threats, and fear that now encircled us. As we drove in silence, the city lights blurred past, each one a reminder of the world that remained oblivious to the storm that was about to break in our lives. In the heat of the argument, the truth was in chaos. I hadn't willingly cheated. I'd been drugged. The stranger was a vengeful ex-boyfriend from my distant past. Shocked and remorseful, Rick and I teamed up, confronting my ex. It was messy, dangerous, but eventually we handed him to the police. The ordeal left our relationship strained, but it opened our eyes to the toxicity we'd allowed to fester. We were broken, maybe too much to fix, but we decided to try, for us, for our family. The air was tense as we sat across from each other in the secluded booth of a dimly lit diner, the outside world a distant blur. Rick's face, usually an open book, was now a fortress of confusion and anger. The clatter of dishes and the murmur of conversations around us felt alien, as if we were detached from the rest of humanity, wrapped in our cocoon of crisis. Jenna, Rick's voice broke the silence. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. The words spilled out of me. The night out with my friends, the stranger at the bar, the blackout, waking up in a strange room, and the haunting realization of what had transpired. I told him about the threats, the messages, and the fear that had been choking me. Rick listened, his expression shifting from anger to shock, and then to something that resembled understanding. I had no idea, he said, his voice low, a hint of guilt lacing his words. I saw you with him and thought. I know what you thought, I interrupted, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. But it wasn't like that. I was drugged, Rick. I didn't choose any of this. A heavy silence fell between us, broken only by the distant sound of a siren outside. Rick reached across the table, his hand covering mine. I believe you, Jenna. But why did he do it? Why now, after all these years? That's the part one don't understand, I admitted, feeling the sting of tears. He said something about revenge, about making me pay for rejecting him in high school. It's insane. Rick's grip tightened. We need to go to the police. He drugged you, Jenna. He's dangerous. I nodded, a mix of fear and determination settling within me. But first, we need to confront him, together. We need to show him that he can't break us, that we're not afraid. The decision made, a new resolve fortified us. We left the diner, the night air sharp against our skin. We drove to the last place I'd seen him, my heart pounding with a cocktail of dread and defiance. He was there, waiting as if he'd anticipated our move. The sight of us together seemed to amuse him. What's this? A united front? Rick stepped forward, his presence imposing. It's over. We know what you did to Jenna, and we're not going to let you get away with it. The stranger's smile didn't waver. Do you? No? And what are you going to do about it? The standoff was tense, the three of us locked in a battle of wills. But then, in the heat of the moment, a twist none of us saw coming. A woman approached from the shadows, her steps firm and deliberate. Enough, she said, her voice commanding. The stranger's face paled at the sight of her. Who is this? Rick demanded. The woman's gaze was fixed on the stranger. His sister. And I'm also a police officer. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. She continued, I've been tracking my brother's activities for a while now. I suspected he was up to something, but I didn't know how far he'd gone until now. The stranger, now visibly shaken, tried to speak, but she cut him off. Save it. You're under arrest. As she handcuffed him, reading his rights, a profound sense of relief washed over me, mingled with disbelief. The nightmare was finally ending. Rick and I stood there, watching as the police officer led her brother away. Our eyes met, a silent understanding passing between us. This ordeal had shattered our illusion of a peaceful life, but it also revealed a strength and unity we didn't know we had. The night was still young, the city's pulse continuing unabated around us. Our journey back from the brink had just begun, and the road ahead was uncertain. But in that moment, facing the remnants of a battle we never expected to fight, we knew we would face it together.